Throwing it back out to Facebook now. There we are. Yeah, you buy a certain level of equipment and pay extra for internet and all that other stuff so you won't have things like that happen. And then
Yeah.
right when you don't want it to happen, that stuff happens. It's funny that way. What we were talking about, I think I was asking you about short form content. That's right. Because we were talking about a video, and what my point was, or where I was going with that, was that we have this idea that that people have a short attention span. People aren't going to pay attention. But I always kind of push back with that idea that the only reason people don't pay attention is because they're bored.
Yep.
And if you don't give them something to pay attention to, of course they're going to have a short attention span, like all of us would.
Yeah.
And if you want people to engage, people will engage for hours and hours and hours, obviously, because Joe Rogan proves it.
Yeah.
Biggest podcaster in the world, and he sits and talks for 3 hours, and we are happy to sit and listen to him. But
Yeah.
anyway, but we go, well, short form content. I go, yeah, that's true, but I think part of that is that are you just putting engaging stuff together, and where am I wrong about that?
I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean, the key detail that you just said there was that basically there is no such thing as too long, just too boring. And I think that a lot of the things that I'm going to say, like, and we're going to talk about in this podcast, is probably going to be a lot of stuff from Alex Hermosi.
Okay.
Just because of
Alex.
how recently he's been in like the mainstream as far as like business goes. A big thing that he says is there's no such thing as too long, just too boring. Because you have people, like, what do you say about the people that binge watch TV shows for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like they come home and they'll watch a 3-hour movie, or they'll, watch The Office for the 9th time in a row for 8 or 9 hours on the weekend. Like, there really is no such thing as too long. And I think that the frustration comes from people that just want to talk. They just want to talk to the camera for as long as they want, and they want to go on tangents, and they want to go. Like, you really need to be structured, especially in today's day and age where people are capitalizing on short form content. It should be freeing for you to think that I just have to really nail this 60 seconds. And really nailing a 20 or 30 minute video takes a lot more work than really nailing 60 seconds. And there's a structure to it, and the structure, it makes sense for every platform, no matter how long you're going to make the video. It's just like movies. Like, there's a story arc, right? There's acts, there's opens and closes, and you open a loop in the first 5 minutes and you close it at 10 minutes, and then there's another loop that's opened at 7 minutes that people want to stick around for it to close at 12 minutes. Like, you can't just talk to a camera anymore. You have to structure it so that people are constantly winning when they're watching your video. They're getting value from it. And basically, something that Alex Hermosi says is that he breaks things into like content units. So like a short form piece of content, let's say like a YouTube short, you hook them, you retain them, and then you reward them. So you hook them by saying like, this is what you're going to get in this video, basically, and it has to be damn good. You can't mess around anymore because people are making really valuable stuff.
Right.
So you tell them what they're going to get. You retain them by the way that you talk to them. Every line leads to the next line, and they feel like they're going to miss out if they leave at any point in the video, and you reward them with what you said you were going to give them, and you nail that. And long form looks the same, just over and over and over and over again. As long as you could make a 3-hour video that somebody pauses when the microwave beeps because they don't want to miss the next 10 seconds.
How is it that, with that being said, how is it that people like Joe Rogan, for example, what is it that makes people stay so engaged with that for so long?
Right. I think
because I'll tell you, don't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
I'll give you an example. James Hadfield, the singer for Metallica. I always go back to this one. he had him on the show. They talked for easily 3 hours.
Right.
And I'm actually not a huge, I like Metallica. I'm not a huge fan. I like their stuff. I actually like the guys more than I like the music.
Yeah.
So listening to James Hadfield talking to Joe Rogan for 3 hours, I can't even explain why, but I was into it.
Right.
And what was fascinating to me about that particular one is most of their conversation, or at least a large portion of it, was about beekeeping. Mm-hmm. Listening to Joe Rogan, a comedian and MMA fighter, talking to James Hetfield, the singer-guitarist for the biggest heavy metal band on the planet, talking about beekeeping.
Right.
And for some reason I was fascinated by James Hetfield's passion for beekeeping of all things.
Right.
But for some reason, and that wasn't all they talked about, but I was engaged for 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, so there's an equation when it comes to, I love that you asked that, because this is literally stuff that like keeps me up at night, right? Of like, why can Joe Rogan talk for 3 hours? So, excuse me. So there's like an equation, and there's proportions, right? If you are no one knows your name, and you mean nothing to the world, right? And it's harsh, but like you have to understand that you mean nothing to the world if you've not provided value to the world yet. And value comes in a lot of different forms, and Joe Rogan's value mainly is entertainment, in like a form of escapism. And I hope I'm not gonna make anybody upset, but like that's Joe Rogan's value, is like people come home. It's just like watching The Office over and over, right? They come home, they want to escape, they want to kick back. So there's a level of that, maybe not a ton of value. There is value there for sure, because I watch Joe Rogan sometimes when he has like really awesome people on the podcast.
Yeah.
But there's a level of brand and authority, right? If I want to know, like, if my next door neighbor, let's actually not even start there. Like some random person that I have no idea who they are. They get on TikTok and they say, check out my morning routine. This is what I eat for breakfast. This is what time I get to work. I work for like this much time and I come home. I do not care.
So
right?
what?
Nobody
Yeah,
cares.
so what?
And I'm just being like dogmatic, like it's very binary, because it's true. Like nobody cares what some random person in the world.
Right.
But then you take like your next door neighbor, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in what Robert eats for breakfast because he's my next door neighbor. Like I have some kind of proximity to him, and it's kind of interesting. Like what does he eat for breakfast? I'll watch. And you take somebody like Jeff Bezos, and you're like, I want to know literally everything about this guy, because he has done some incredible things, whether you like him or not. He's done some incredible things in this world, and I want to know what time he wakes up, and I want to know what car he drives, and I want to know what kind of gas he puts in that car, and I want to know what he eats, what kind of gas does he put in his car, And if he's interested in beekeeping, I want to know why, and I want to know how much time he spends on it, because I want to know how much time can I spend on my extracurricular activities and still be a bazillionaire, you know what I mean? So there's like this give and take of, if you have this much authority, you can give what seems like less value. But if you have no authority, no brand, you have to lead with incredible value to be on somebody's radar. And the more times that you do that, the more you bring your brand up, which ideally you would do both always. But the more that you have a brand and authority, the less value you actually have to provide, but you should probably also give incredible value, even when you have an amazing brand.
So the large portion of what you're saying when it comes to Joe Rogan specifically, and what I just described, is that because these people already have a name, it gives them a little bit of the freedom to talk whatever they want to talk about, because everybody's going to be interested in it.
I think that a very big problem, a very big issue, a mistake that people make when they have a business or they're trying to build a brand, is they look at people that are so far ahead of them. Like they look at like Coca-Cola and they're like, okay, so Coca-Cola spends XYZ on like promotional ads, like brand awareness. They spend this much on billboards a year. They spend this much on ads that have no call to action. It's just Coca-Cola. Okay, they're also like an extremely wealthy company that has marketing budgets that they don't even track, probably. They don't have an ROI that they have to have on brand awareness ads. They just know how much they should spend. You can't do that as a small business. You have to be, you don't have the luxury, so you have to be extremely specific about how much you spend and how much are we getting back from that. And so people look at people that have been doing it. You know, Joe Rogan, like what's the first thing that he was on? Like he's been in the media for a
forever.
century.
Yeah,
like
he's been around for
he's
a long,
always
long
so
time.
he's like, you got like Fear Factor and all of these other shows that he's been on, and then you see him talking on the podcast, and you're like, how come I can't talk for 3 hours and have hundreds of thousands of people listen? And it's because you didn't do all of.
Because you're not Joe Rogan.
You're not Joe Rogan.
It's that whole idea of the overnight success that takes you 20 years to arrive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that bamboo that takes like 8 years to grow an inch underground, and then overnight it'll shoot up 8 feet. Like people never look, and they try to skip that, and people never look at the stuff that they did before that gave them so much leverage when the day came.
Yeah. So, and that's a great point. And and to your point, I was instantly interested in watching that video just because I already like Joe Rogan, and then James Hadfield's interesting just because I think he's an interesting guy. So I'm interested, and then they start talking about beekeeping, and then I'm in.
Right.
And then wherever that conversation goes, I'm right on top of it. It is interesting though. There's other people like. Are you familiar with Tim Pool?
I don't think so.
I love listening to Tim Pool. Tim Pool's an interesting character. Back when Occupy Wall Street happened, he was just an on-the-ground reporter. He just had a mobile device. He was just going around kind of on his own doing, and then then he just started getting traction in different places doing this. And now he's so well known, he started his own basically just podcast.
Yeah.
And then what happened is he was growing here little by little, just building up a brand. And then for some reason, Rogan invited him on his podcast to come talk to some people with him. And then now he's one of the biggest podcasters on around.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because seeing him on Rogan, I didn't know who he was. To me, he would have been a little bit like who the heck are you and I don't care.
Right.
But because he got this connection with Rogan where I saw him on that show, then suddenly I would go, I wonder what he does when he's not on, before. And then then I watch him, and then he gets a certain comfort level.
Right.
For
me. Yeah. And that is, that's kind of like the whole idea behind like joint ventures, like going into business with other people, because you're leveraging their authority. So just being in the presence of somebody that you already have so much trust in, whether it's, actual trust on information or I trust you to entertain me, it's leverage, like the person that he has on his podcast, it transfers. There's like a trust transfer, and it's not fully
Trust transfer.
Yeah. So it's not like
That's
a full thing, but
phrase.
But you feel it. You're like,
yeah.
If he trusts him, then I should trust him at least for this amount of time, and then that's kind of the ball's in his court at that point. Like, is he gonna, with the information that he has and the value that he's gonna bring to you in that amount of time, is he gonna win you over from that interaction? And that's kind of like the whole, like podcasts are kind of like tiny little joint venture deals.
That's really interesting. Do you have how does somebody utilize that on the tiers down? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about, there's Rogan, biggest podcaster in the world. He gets one of these guys that's lesser known, but still gets on there. Then all of a sudden his brand shoots way up.
Yeah.
Scale that down. You're talking A level there. Scale that down to 4 or 5 levels.
Right.
Can you do something like that? Is that accomplishable?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of...
the reason I'm asking this is because in the organization you are with, there's a whole section where he does interviews with people.
Right.
And I wonder, is that part of the strategy with that, or no?
Yeah,
That's
of
what
course.
I'm wondering. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's strategies that are like multifaceted, right? So the podcast that we have for the company is it's valuable in a lot of different ways. One way is constantly obtaining information from other fairly high level people that you might not have. There's possible business ventures involved because all of these people are higher level, business people. They have their own companies or they know a lot of people with their own companies. So there's like possible deals there, and then just like the networking. So I'll tell you, there's definitely a strategy for just being in the presence of somebody that's very trusted, and then showing everyone else that you were in the presence of somebody that was very trusted. Because like what we were saying, and of course you can do it on smaller levels, and you do it all the time. I mean, like if you have a friend group, and one of your friends brings in a friend that he's had for a long time, and you really like John, and John brought Bob in, John is leveraging his trust with you to bring Bob into the group. And you, subconsciously or not, you are accepting that. You're like, I really like John, and if John likes this guy, then I'm sure that I like that guy. Like I was working with a business recently that I wanted to bring in a finance guy because I was like, we're kind of going in blind here, and I could sit here and tell you that this should be your marketing budget just because I want to make, this amount of money, but I honestly don't know how much you should be spending on marketing, and you should have somebody that can financially model this. And I brought someone in, and there was just no question, because of the amount of value that I provided to these people for the past year or two, they have no question that I would bring in somebody that can do the work.
Right.
So like you
Makes
do it on a small level all the time, and all of that time that you save from leveraging the trust between all of these people is like insurmountable. Like you don't have to spend all of this time in tension. You're spending all this time like doing amazing things with amazing people because it's networking. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. It is interesting because the podcast you guys have, there's been some pretty amazing people on there.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of them, and there's great, seriously valuable information, and I'm telling you this, I get nothing out of complimenting you for this. I'm just saying it's really cool. There's some great stuff that I've seen on there, and it is interesting because I do subconsciously, I think, then make these connections. Like, wow, that's a pretty high power. That's a high powered dude that he's talking to right there. And then there's that the trust transfer.
Yeah.
Like you talked about. Okay, I've taken us in totally areas you probably didn't even plan on talking about.
I love it. I mean, that's the stuff that I really like talking about. Like, I feel like video, when I started out, I was in video. I used video as a vehicle to get into business and marketing as a whole. Like, that was my special sauce that I could provide value to a business owner to get into the business and start understanding business and marketing. So
the question is then, is video more the sauce than it was before? Is it just as much sauce? Is it less sauce? I mean, I say this because everything seems to be that now. Mm-hmm. Everything. I mean, even Instagram Reels, that's all, where Instagram was a static image, cool photos thing for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It seemed like it was less than a year ago that the CEO came out and said, we now consider ourselves a short video platform.
Yeah, it wasn't
like
that long
more like
ago.
TikTok.
Which is weird because things move so fast in like the technology space. It feels like a decade ago, but it was probably literally less than a year ago that they said, like, we're focusing more on
But
video.
all this stuff that had to be in response to TikTok, almost for sure. YouTube, which has been the video, the main, the big video platform for a long, long time, even they're responding, it seems like, to TikTok. And I'll tell you, I make YouTube shorts all the time. that really does seem like a reaction. And the reason I say that is when YouTube Shorts first came out, there was no like button to make a short. It was like, if you upload something in a certain format or a certain length,
if it's less
it
than
just
60
turns
seconds,
into one.
it's a short.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, maybe if you hashtag shorts, it'll make it a short. There was like all of these little tricks because they just did it automatically.
There was nothing. It was almost like somebody said, "How are we going to get short form videos out quick that are going to be 16?"
They just launched it.
Just anything that's this turns into that automatically. That's what it was.
I remember that. Yeah.
And it's still, there is no way. And then there was, at first you could set the thumbnail. Now you can't do the thumbnail anymore. And so it's almost like it's one of those things where start flying and then we'll build the plane while we're going.
Yeah, it really was. Because they freaked out. They're like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to lose attention on long form videos. We have to get something. We have to get something made.
And YouTube Shorts are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, they were smart that they got into it the way they did, but it seems like it was such a middle of the night, hurry up, put something out kind of thing when they did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so getting back to my question, it seems to me that video is just more important than ever. And do you think that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a double-edged sword because I feel like, so video, if you think about it, video is just like a messaging vehicle, right? And people have gotten really tired of, just text and image, and that's still, there is still a place for that. I'm not saying that, there's still tons of ads that are run that are just text and images that are killing it and growing businesses. But video is obviously a lot more intimate. I mean, everybody's been saying it for years and years and years that video just performs better than a still image. But there's a power in knowing how to influence people. And you can do that in words, and you can do that in text, and you can do that in images. But video is a lot more powerful. And so you see it happening on both ends of the spectrum, where really everyone is competing for that magic little dopamine molecule. Right. And whoever can fire, and it's sad, but you can also leverage it for good. But there are people that leverage it for bad. Like whoever can fire the most dopamine in your brain as fast as possible wins. And that's really what the algorithm is on most platforms. And so people will use that in a bad way, and they'll do things that, just are ignorant, and there's no actual value exchange, and it's just, weird things that'll keep you watching longer. And then there's people that will leverage the same frameworks to teach you something. And it's really up to you. I mean, the hot commodity, the most expensive thing on the planet right now is human focus. And you own all of your focus. And so what I always say is, on a personal level, you should be very aware of that people are competing constantly for your focus. And where your focus goes, energy flows. Like if you are focusing on the short form stuff that is, eating your brain alive and teaching you nothing, and you wake up 3 hours later and you didn't realize you were scrolling, like that's bad. That's bad. You should use the same system to be learning and rewarding yourself in a more valuable way that's going to help you in life. Because, let's face it, you are being hunted for your focus online. And so you should be very aware of that and focus on your focus, if you will.
Yeah, where focus goes, energy flows. I've heard Tony Robbins say that a bunch, and it's really true. And that brings up something. I don't want to. I'm dominating this. I don't want to, but I want to bring up one interesting thing about that whole. I was listening to Tom Bilyeu. You know who Tom Bilyeu? I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he was talks about doom scrolling every once in a while.
Yeah.
Which is what that is, where you just start going.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how there is so much, like take TikTok, for example. For a long, long time, and I think it's probably still this way, there's a lot of really negative attitude that goes toward TikTok.
Yeah.
And the thing I tell people is TikTok is whatever you make it to be.
Yeah.
And it'll reflect whatever you seem to be interested in.
Yeah.
Because what I see on it and what one of my kids would see on it and what the neighbor sees on it are totally, totally different things. This is an empty platform that's waiting for you to tell it what to show you.
Yeah.
And I actually get, interestingly, a lot of, I was introduced to Tom Bilyeu on short form content just because I'm looking at things and it knows what I'm interested in.
Right.
And all of a sudden I go, oh, who's this guy? And then I go look him up, and then I'm now watching all of his stuff. And so these platforms, there actually can be value in them. As people poo-poo them, you go, actually, it's only reflecting back to you what you are.
Right.
And if you are interested in things that are educational, it's going to feed you things that are educational and actually probably open up, for me it has, open up different things that I'd never noticed before.
For sure.
So, but to your point, that whole doom scrolling thing, you can just find yourself getting, and it's the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. And then it's just more and more and more. And then I think that there's even a fear of missing out thing that comes on. What's next? What's next? What's next? Is there going to be something cooler? What am I going to miss? Is there another thing?
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I feel like I recognized that maybe just like a year or two ago, maybe. And you can start training yourself to basically, like, if you start to realize, and I mean, you don't have to do this. I understand people get on TikTok sometimes at the end of the day to escape.
Yeah.
And it's
like watching The Office.
Yeah, it's like watching The Office.
I'm going to spend 30 minutes and I'm going to just watch a bunch of stuff.
All of these things are just new vehicles to the same thing that we've been doing for centuries. You know, like cavemen would get done with their hunt and like roll a rock around or something, you know, like they escape from the stress. And, you know, people like, let's say like my in-laws, like they understand watching sports, but like they wouldn't understand scrolling on Instagram, you know, but they're both forms of escapism, of getting out of your life and, you know, whatever form you take of it. But something that you can do is the first couple of seconds on a short form piece of content, if you recognize pretty early on that it's just pure garbage that's just trying to fire your dopamine receptors as fast as possible, get off of it and keep going until you hit something that's like valuable. And whatever that means for you, value means a lot of different things. If the garbage is valuable, then stay on it to you. But you also have to understand that if you want to have different results, consumption is what provides you the results. Like, you are what you eat. If you're eating garbage on TikTok all day, you're going to be creating garbage. The value that you create is going to be garbage, right? I feel like I get off topic a lot, but yeah, what I was saying is like strategic consumption. Like, be on the platforms for a reason of becoming better at whatever you are doing,
right?
Because the info is there for you to become better at whatever. If you want to be a better plumber, it's there.
And this is the part that frustrates me a little bit, because Nicole, who's sitting over here running the live setup right now, she knows this, because I will come in to her and I will show her things that I've found, because I actually will scroll things like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, what is it why did so many people watch that? And why is it that I'm interested in this? And so I will sometimes go in and I'll say, look at this. What is going on here? Why is this so popular? And actually, one of the things I'd really like to hear from you is, as you've done this over the years, what are the things that you've learned that have been, I don't know what the word is, the most surprising or the most useful? Or because mastering these platforms, to be perfectly honest, is super frustrating. I'll give you an example. And I've met with our whole staff about this a bunch of times. I bring up this one example where I took some footage for one of our clients. It was a video that I shot in, no joke, like 3 minutes. It was just some little random thing that I filmed. Okay, it was for a tiny home client that we had, and I filmed this short little video. The video is 7 seconds long. I spent no more than 3 minutes putting this video together, loaded it up onto, I think the platform on this one was TikTok, 500,000 views.
Yeah.
And then another video that we spent a couple of days working on, 20 views. Yeah. And so I this was like almost a year ago. I sat down with our staff here and I said, I don't know that I could ever justify spending more than 3 minutes on a video ever again. Mm-hmm. Because the 3-minute video got me 500,000 views and the 2-day video got me 30.
Yeah.
And then you go, and trying to master that and get your head around what the heck am I supposed to do here is mega frustrating.
Yeah.
So, we have everything in between as far as videos go. It's not, I've got videos up in the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, and I've also got some that are 5.
Yeah.
And what is the secret sauce then? So, and it's hard to anyway. That's a super frustrating thing to try to make sense out of.
I think you're highlighting the point of like the value in testing. Like take your ego out of, and I'm just talking to everyone here. Like take your ego out of what you're creating, and just look at the numbers and see like why like what's happening, and you can model from other people too. Like what is killing it for other people in a similar space. That's a really cool thing to do, mm-hmm. is to look at what people are doing in a similar space. And then testing. I mean, some things are like you don't really know, and you kind of killed it out of nowhere, and you never do it again, and it's weird. Like you upload a couple second video, and it can be something as simple as like the lens flare in the first half a second caught people's attention, and then there was a cat in a tree that you didn't see. Like there's just these random things that come together and are beautiful, but there's also things that are just tried and true about creating content. And so I would say like the secret sauce is like what we were talking about earlier, like especially on short form. I know people come on a podcast and like talk about just very vague things. I'm going to say something very tactical, very strategic here. The hook, retain, reward that I was talking about with Hormozy earlier. So if you want to create killer short form content, and especially short form content, just think about how you scroll. That first, even second, like people say like the first 3 seconds, like the first second, you've got to be coming out of the gate hot. Like you are competing for some serious attention here on these short form platforms. So when you come out of the gate, you don't say like, hey guys, I'm just hopping on. You're gone. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. You have to get straight into the meat. And it's like not only the information, but you capture them in the beginning with what you're going to tell them in the rest of the video. So like, let's just say that it's like a van life video, mm-hmm. something. Yeah. And so there's a lot of different frameworks and things that you can apply, but one of them is like things to avoid, because people are really scared about negative things, right? If you were somebody that was looking into going into living the van life, you want to know what to avoid. So if it was a video that I was creating for that audience, it would be like the opening shot, I would be in front of my van or in my van, make it very obvious that it's my van, and you come out of the gate by saying like, I wish I would have known these 3 things before I got into van life, or these 3 things cost me $20,000 in the first year of living a van life. And saying something like that, you've hooked them. More than likely you've retained them, because there's 3 things that in total cost you a lot of money in the first year of van life, and you don't want to miss the second or the third thing. So there's like automatically a level of retention that you've built into the hook. So a lot of people think that they can just get on these short form platforms and just talk like it's anything else. And you just can't anymore. People have gotten too good at fighting for your attention. So you come out of the gate like that. And then just a general copywriting tip is that every single sentence, like you're not just talking, you're not just trying to fill 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Every single sentence has to be leading into the next sentence so that they feel like if they left on that sentence, they have the fear of missing out on the next sentence. So you have cliffhangers, you have things like if you were going to say, like take the van life example, and you say something like, I would have spent $2,000 on replacing my fridge if I wouldn't have known how to do this. Like that is leading into the next sentence. Like I'm waiting for the next sentence. And like this stuff, like I said, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad, right? You can use all of these same principles to keep somebody hooked for no other reason than to just have them hooked and watching your video. And it's, or you can use it to really inspire people, and you can use the same frameworks to really give value to people, but you're still battling for that attention. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think that's you're right about that, and some of it, to one of the things you said earlier, and this is the part that's most frustrating to me, is the what the heck happened on that particular one where you don't really know what the thing was that really grabbed people.
Yeah.
Was it the music? Was it something that happened in the visual? Was it something you said? What was that thing that got them to pay attention? The one that the example that I give all the time is the one from the tiny home video that got 500,000 views like that. I don't have a clue. Right. And what's interesting is I've taken that same video and put it out on the same platform. Didn't do nearly as good.
Yeah.
I just put it out again like 6 months later, the exact same video.
Yeah, it was just a perfect storm.
And I don't know if the algorithm then goes, "Hey, you're doing the same," and it downplay, because you also don't know that.
Right.
So, but yeah, and so what is the perfect storm? And but interestingly, you said a couple things that are really important. And Nicole can attest to this too. One of our clients right now is an audiologist. And one of the first things we did is we went and found a whole bunch of other audiologists on these different platforms and started looking at what their videos were that were successful. And Nicole, am I right? The videos we made that were like the videos from the others, they haven't had the millions of views, but they have been the ones in the thousands.
Yeah.
By matching what the other people had already been doing,
right.
that they had the millions.
Steal like an artist.
Yeah.
Like it takes so much off of you to think, what I'm doing, there's probably thousands of other people that have already done it. And just model what other people are doing. You don't copy it. You don't like take their script and say exactly what they said and just, do it yourself. But like understand what they're doing and why something worked, I remember we talked about like there's also visual hooks. So like for an audiologist, I know they do that gel like foam stuff to ear mold. Yeah. And like I've seen videos like that.
Yeah, we made some for that very reason.
Yeah, like right off the bat, they're like putting foam in somebody's ear. And I'm like, I can't leave. It's a train wreck, and like I have to watch it. And there's an element of that too. Like that's fear of missing out. Like what is are they gonna pull it out and like they're gonna be like this beautiful, or is there gonna be like a bunch of wax or something? Like you're there for it. So yeah, I mean, I always find myself forgetting that you can model other people and just see what they're doing. I mean, it goes for everything. Like if you're a website designer, like you don't have to build from scratch. Look at other people. Like if you're building a website for your, you're a roofer and you're trying to get leads and you're trying to build a website, like look at what other roofers are doing. You don't feel so alone in this, like what you're trying to do.
I got to tell you, I used to have such a hard time with that because, I'm somebody that considers myself a creative artist type, and I hated modeling other people. I felt like I have to do this. But then you start recognizing somewhere, if you're smart, which I wasn't and frequently am not, but you have to start to realize that there's nothing original. And I had to almost deconstruct this to get myself used to it. For example, I play the guitar. Who decided that the guitar strings are E, A, D, G, B, E?
Right.
I'm basically building my music on a structure
Right.
that somebody created 150 years ago.
Yeah.
And so when you're modeling your website, it's a similar idea. Somebody's already built this structure. You're just working. And when I write a song, are my chord progressions really different than everybody else's? No.
Right.
I mean, we've all seen that. You take most of the biggest songs that have ever been written, and you can sing the parts over each one of them because they're all the same song.
Yeah.
They just layer them differently and a little slower, a little faster, a little different accents and what have you. But it's fundamentally, you only have 4 or 5 songs
Yeah.
that have ever been written, and you can figure out ways of taking those chord progressions and singing the same thing over the top of them. So
Yeah.
it's a very important lesson to figure out at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a really good podcast about this specifically. It's Andrew Huberman, and it's his podcast on creativity. And if you haven't seen Andrew Huberman, he's like a Stanford scientist. He has a podcast, and he goes really, really deep into the subjects that he has. So he has like one podcast like every few weeks or month or something, and they're like 2 hours long. So he has a podcast where he like breaks down the science behind creativity, and it's really like taking a few seemingly unlike things and putting them together in a new way that nobody's ever seen before. But like those seemingly unlike things are things that have already been created, But yeah, if you haven't seen that, listen to that podcast.
He's
That's a really
awesome.
good one. Yeah.
No joke. I do my little thing every morning. I think I quoted him this morning.
Oh yeah.
From one of his shows. It's just it's all brain stuff and how things work. And
Talk about somebody that's using long form content and keeping everybody completely enthralled the entire time. I mean, we live in such an amazing world today.
It's very well thought out.
Stanford, I can listen to a Stanford scientist on my walk in the morning for 2 hours talk about a subject that I would never be able to listen to unless I was going to Stanford. It's pretty incredible. And
it is. So okay.
Yeah.
I have so many things that I want to ask you about and get your input on because you're the man and you know so much of this way more than I do. Question: how much value is there in the originality of the visual? Here's why I ask this. TikTok, for example, has their, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't think of it. What's it called, Nicole? CapCut.
CapCut, yeah.
CapCut. Sorry, it took me a second.
Mm-hmm.
CapCut.
Yeah.
Which has just, so many, all kinds of different crazy things you can do with it. And if you're scrolling, you're seeing people using all this stuff, the visuals, in really, really unique ways.
Yeah.
What is the value of the uniqueness of the visual presentation, in your opinion?
Oh man, I feel like there's a lot of different ways. I feel there's a lot of different variables to that. So I feel like, and all of this is just like my opinion, right, and things that I've seen from what we've done, but the visual of a hook, it can be like 2 different ways. If it's really unique, that can hook somebody, right, and get them to watch your first couple of seconds until you start, giving them the reason why they're there. So if it's a really unique hook visual, then that's great for a hook. But also, there's like your reticular activating system. One of the reasons why somebody can rewatch The Office 100 times all the way through is because they know what's going to happen, and it's very relaxing for them, and it's kind of exhausting to watch something new and not know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a time and place for both things, right?
So interesting.
So like if I am in the mood to watch something that I've never seen before and I want to be captivated and I want to use a lot of energy to be really connected to something, I might go to the movies and watch a brand new movie that's come out and they're using a lot of brand new special effects that I've never seen in a movie. But if I want to chill out and I had a hard week, I'll watch The Office for, however many hours. So it's really like a time and place thing. You can use hooks that, visual hooks that people have used a lot on TikTok, because your reticular activating system will feel comfortable seeing the hook again. And they'll notice something that they've seen before, and they feel at home on the platform and on your video. And I think that is also why you can edit a TikTok in Premiere or DaVinci or After Effects, and you can make it amazing, what you would consider amazing, and have all kinds of cool effects and different color captions and stuff, and it can completely bomb on TikTok because people are used to seeing edits made on the platform. So we have ads that we've created that we've edited the crap out of, and put the captions that work really well on Facebook. We've done it on TikTok, but it's not native to the platform. So you really have to cater to, like, what are people used to seeing on the platform, and what do they feel comfortable with? Because when you see TikTok captions, like, that they're TikTok captions. And you know that this is a TikTok. But if you try to do like a TikTok on YouTube Shorts with the TikTok style captions, it doesn't perform as well because they're in a different environment. They're there for a different reason, and they don't feel at home when they see something like that on a different platform. So there's really two levels. I would say if you're trying to create something consistent, you're trying to like get views and get eyeballs, stick to what's known for a long time. It's just like film in general. Like, you have to know the rules to break them. Get really good at the rules. Like in film, like everything for the most part is shot in 23.976.
Mm-hmm.
But there are rare occasions where you don't shoot it in that. And the shutter speed rule, like double the frame rate, that's regular motion blur, unless it's a fight scene, and then you break the rules and you up the shutter speed, and it's so get really good at the fundamentals for each platform, and then start testing the rules being broken and see what you can do there.
That's really interesting, because you opened up something. Okay. If somebody does let me see how to explain this. Do you remember I'm a Mac, I'm a PC commercials? Do you remember those things? I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. You were a kid.
Yeah, I was probably
when they came out.
Probably a little boy.
They were shot on a cyc like this, and it was just this white open space. You had this one guy that came out and said, I'm a Mac, and another guy that came out and said, I'm a PC. Those commercials were so popular that, and this was pre-social media. I mean, these were TV commercials, but people started making their own versions.
Yeah, I was about to say,
that.
I think it sounds familiar from other companies.
But what's so interesting now is that you say, for example, the most interesting man in the world. Remember those commercials?
Yeah.
How many people started doing their own most interesting whatever kind of things? So it's really interesting because there's a familiarity thing too by doing either parody or something similar.
Yeah.
Thematically.
Yeah, they'll do it on the radio. I mean, you might know that how they strategically roll out new songs on the radio. They'll put them in between two songs that sound similar to like start and that's kind of like the trust transfer too, because you listen to a song that's similar, you listen to a brand new song that you've never heard before, but it's kind of similar to that song. Same like beats per minute, same genre, and then they'll play another song to the back of it, and before you know it, you know every word to that song, and you don't even remember memorizing it because it's just comfortable. It goes in that story on the way to work, So there is like, you don't want to shock people's system too much. You introduce things slowly and that are similar, but then obviously there's people that break all of the rules all of the time, and they're very famous because of it.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I don't know that we've tapped into that enough. It's just listening to the way you discuss that right there. I feel like like a little bit of an idiot when I talk to you sometimes.
No.
And I mean that in a good way. Because I just, there's so many things. I spend, probably not as much as you, but I spend so much brain energy trying to figure stuff out where I'm just like, what is going, and then experiment late at night going, why is this? What's going on and why? And you've gone way beyond whatever I've been able to figure out with some of, with all of this stuff. So it's fascinating to me listening to this because you put these things together better than I do. By the way, we're just doing this for right this second for fun. There's no money being exchanged. No one's promoting anything.
Yeah.
This is just talking.
Yeah.
And so I'm utterly fascinated for my own selfish reasons listening to all this stuff right now.
Yeah.
So okay. Other elements of secret sauce when it comes to creating something that people are going to want to watch that we haven't talked about here. What intelligent things can you bring? Let me lead it up with something.
Yeah.
As you know, I get every single morning. I come in and I've been doing this for, I think today was my 78th show. I come into the studio and I just film myself. And by the way, I don't expect anybody to watch it. And I never ask like friends and family. I'm doing it for me to exercise a muscle.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by people that can get in front of a microphone, like people on the radio, and just talk.
Yeah. And
talk to the wall. And it's a skill. You
Yeah.
don't realize how hard it is to talk to the wall until you try talking to the wall. And so, and I try to think of myself as a good communicator and an actor and different things like this. And so I thought, I've got to get better at this. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. This is like my own little Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get on every morning. I'm just going to talk. And I've probably, and it's been interesting watching myself ebb and flow because some of the things I do I think are awful. And the other days I'm like, man, I think I nailed it. And that felt really good. But what's been interesting, Wyatt, is that a few times I've taken the video and I've chopped out chunks of it just for fun. And I've thrown it on Instagram and put it on different places. And I've not gotten like crazy views, but I've had some that have 10,000 plus on these little short videos that I've taken that I've just pulled out of other things. So one of the things that I've done with clients, and I'm not looking for you to say this is a good idea or a bad idea. I'm actually just looking for your input on this kind of thing. Is I'll say, look, let's just, like the audiologist, for example. Say, look, I want to just set you guys up in the front office, and we're going to put on a camera, and I'm just going to ask you questions. And hopefully what's going to happen is there's going to be some cool things that are come out of it, and I'm going to pull those little bits and pieces out, and we're just going to publish them, and that's going to give us fodder to test to see what people are going to watch.
Yeah.
And then we started off doing it that way. And then I walked in and I said, okay, let's change this up a little bit. I want you to tell me 5 things that X or 3 things that this, and then start explaining those to me. But then the idea was to get just little bits and pieces of content. And some of them have actually done pretty well and others haven't. But that's one of my little things where we go, rather than sitting and trying to plan out 15 seconds, go back to my whole thing of, I don't know why that one got 500,000 views. Let's just start filming. And then let's just put stuff out and it's kind of like throwing it against the wall and figuring out if there is a pattern here and what that pattern is.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things to take into account there because you are a business. Right?
Right.
Like, you can't spend all of your time servicing one client, but you can take the amount of time that you should spend servicing one client and do the best that you possibly can in that amount of time. You're not like a giant operation with 50 employees and 20 unpaid interns.
Right.
And so that probably is the best route for you to take. And it's the best route for them to get because obviously, if they could, they already would have hired somebody in-house that can spend all of their waking time trying to crack the algorithm for their specific niche, they can probably only afford a certain level of service, because you are not going to be able to become an expert on every single client's niche, right? Like, you're not going to be able to take tiny homes and understand the customer journey and what keeps people up at night whenever they're thinking about buying a tiny home. And the same for audiologists. Like, you would be completely overwhelmed if you tried to understand every single business model that you were servicing. So yeah, I would say for you as a service-based business that's serving people in the form of video and social media, that's probably the right approach. If you wanted to drastically increase your prices and work with less people, if that was your goal, then you could get really specialized and say, I'm the best audiologist, social media strategist in the United States. If you want to blow up your audiologist brand through social media, I am your guy. And then at that point, you can charge 10, 15K a month to do audiologists. But if you're servicing at a lower level, and it's not like degrading, it's saying people need different things at different times. There probably is a billion-dollar audiologist franchise that wants somebody that's 100% in and they're an employee, right? But for people that like the people that you're servicing, that's what they need. They need somebody like you, which you're already doing all of the things. You're asking all of the questions, and you're saying that you're staying up at night trying to figure out what's working. Like, that's what you should be doing in your shoes, servicing these people.
And is that approach an intelligent way to do it?
I think it's these are all the big questions of entrepreneurship.
Right.
Like, what are your goals? What's the vision for your company? What's your mission? How do you want to serve the world? All of those those are the building blocks and the foundation that you start with whenever you're looking at your business, so that you can take your vision lens and you can look through it at every aspect in your company. And if you're saying, I want to serve people where they're at as like a small to medium sized business, then yeah, you probably are doing the right approach. But if your vision was to build the best social media agency for HVAC and plumbing, then you're probably not taking the right approach. So that's why you have a mission, a vision, and values, so that you can look at everything that you're doing in your business through the lens of your mission, vision, and values and say, that is my North Star. If you don't have that, then you probably would be asking those questions every day. Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, that's great feedback. And it's interesting, to your point, everybody's in different places, and we're in a really small market here.
Yeah.
And what the needs that a lot of these businesses have are just that. And that is what that's what we're trying to fill, is that thing where you've got these people that are, usually I don't know what you even consider a small business, because I've worked with companies that I was with a company for a while that had 40,000 employees. That's a big company.
Yeah, that's giant.
And they had people all over the world.
Right.
And I was just working, with one particular. I was actually doing e-learning. Yeah, we've talked about this before. I was managing a group of people that were doing e-learning, and yeah, it was a totally different thing there. The business, the company itself was its own ecosystem,
right,
with money changing hands inside the company. Budgets being transferred from group to group, where it's not, you move into a smaller market like St. George, where you have hundreds and hundreds of small companies that are all, less than 20 employees.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. And they all have similar needs, and they all need to tap into these, use social media strategically, use it in such a way that it'll actually benefit them and isn't just and that's kind of a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah.
How to find that, how to get that thing And yeah, anyway, we've had mixed success with it. You know, there's some people that I back to that one. There's some places where we've actually really killed it, and things have gone very well. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example, because one of the reasons that we're able to do this successfully in our studio is because it isn't just the studio. I have a side business, which you know about, called Audio Mover.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of the stuff that I do with other clients, I've learned from that. And one of the biggest lessons I ever learned, and this is amazing, was back in, I think it was 2017, just for fun, I made a video called "Why is an 8-track tape called an 8-track tape?" You don't even know what an 8-track tape is, do you?
I've heard of them.
You know, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, just for fun, because my audience was, you know, my age, give or take, you know, a little bit, and older. And I said, I'm going to make a video called "Why is an 8-track tape called an 8-track tape?" And it was just, at the time, it was just for fun. Threw it on YouTube. I think this was 2017, 16, somewhere in there. Put it on YouTube. That video, I don't know what it is, but it's somewhere right now in the 70,000 view range over the last 5-6 years. And that's not the thing. What's amazing about that video is the amount of business that company has had from that stupid video.
Yeah.
Because people will find that video where me talking about this technology that they're interested in already, just because they're from that era.
Yeah.
They'll watch it, and then guess what they think about me? They think this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, this guy knows everything about 8-track.
He knows what's going on.
Right.
And then it's easy to move them over to, I also know what cassette tapes, I also know about this and this and this.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, my phone's ringing, the studio phone rings, and they say, hey, I've been watching your videos. I no joke, I get this call all the time. I've been watching your videos on YouTube, and I'll be talking to them, and they go, oh, is this the guy that was in the videos? It happens all the time. I'm like,
Right.
yeah. And I was like, that's cool, you're watching those things. Oh, man, yeah, I watch them, and I realized you're the guy. You're the person that knows how to do this stuff. I'm sending my stuff to you. I trust you.
Yeah.
I thought, that's absolutely amazing. And I bring this up because that business is what most of the businesses we work with are like. You know, these are people that have 20 to 30 or less employees, rarely more than that.
Yeah.
And they all have that same kind of need. And you think, okay, then how do we apply these principles of making you the expert? So then people, and what's so amazing about this, Wyatt, what's so crazy is that then this stuff, people are finding me not on YouTube. They're finding me in Google to start with.
Yeah.
By doing a search on whatever it happens to be, and that shoots them to YouTube. This is one of the things that I struggle with the most with clients. I have this conversation all the time. And getting people to understand this is so important because this applies to everybody, okay? Everybody needs to understand this. So, for example, I had this client in here that did some sort of, I can't remember, it was something related to business finance or something. And we get a lot of people that rent the studio. They were just in here filming some videos. I started talking about this. I started asking what they were doing on YouTube and other stuff. And the guy says, well, we really don't have many, people are not searching for us on YouTube. That's what he said. And I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
People are not searching for us on YouTube. And I go, that's totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter that they're not searching. They're searching for you on Google, right? Yeah. Yes. And what is YouTube or what is Google trying to do? They're trying to show you where they can. They're going to show videos. If there's video content, they're going to put that at the beginning of the Google search results.
Yep.
And guess what? If there's video content that's local, that's even better.
Yep.
So if somebody's searching for whatever your business happens to be, and you don't have videos on YouTube, you're blowing it.
Yeah.
You're blowing it totally. Yep. And that's the thing people don't understand, is that because YouTube and Google are so closely related, you've got to be putting out content. I have had more business over the years from that video I made on why is an 8-track tape called an 8-track tape. And that's the one that has the most views. I have other videos I made on similar topics, how to repair a cassette tape.
Yeah.
I have videos, 20, 30,000 views where I'm just fixing a tape. Same thing. People want to get their tapes digitized. They're doing searches on cassette tapes. Guess what? They're finding my video, fixing a cassette tape. This guy knows what he's doing. My tape's broken. I don't dare send it to I have competitors for Audio Mover that are 100 times bigger than we are.
But people,
yes. Yeah. People send me the business. We have had some of the biggest contracts ever in that business that have ever been done in the United States. We've won them.
Yeah.
And it's because I know what the heck I'm doing. And I come across that way. Yeah. And I try to explain this to my clients too. Hey, we got a doorbell. Will you mind grabbing that? I think I know who's here. But people do not understand the power of these platforms, and they assume that, well, I don't really need to make videos, or I don't need to put things on YouTube because no one's searching for it. You have no idea what you're talking about.
You have no idea.
And now when people are going, the next thing that happened, and this is the part that really gets me now. Well, because TikTok, I'm actually a believer. Okay, once I saw how the thing works.
Yeah.
Same thing. People are going, well, my clients aren't looking for us on TikTok, and all it is 18-year-old girls dancing. And I go, no, it's not. And as a matter of fact, I remember people saying this about YouTube with cat videos 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And now what?
Yeah.
And so I go, if you're smart, in my opinion, if you're smart, you're on that platform and you are creating content. Whether you're getting millions of views right now is not the point. You're on that platform and you're building something on there, because that is where it's going.
Yeah.
And if you're not, anyway, I didn't mean to just totally take this over, but that is, you've got to understand this. And so every time I meet with a client, one of the first things we do, we start talking about this principle. We've got to have a consistent presence on these platforms. You got to stick with it. You got to keep going. And even if you're not getting massive traction right this second, you've got to be on there, and you've got to be consistently on there. Yeah. And amazingly, you're going to put out one of these things, and then you're going to see the 8-track tape. That's the one that got people. And then I start going, okay, now I can make one on how to fix this. I can make one explaining this. And then that one gets 10,000, and that one gets 20,000, that one gets 8,000.
Yeah.
And then the funniest thing, man. Okay, this is hilarious. This phone call. This phone call is hysterical. Okay. So people call me up, and they go, "Hey, I've been doing my research. I can see that you're the company that knows." And what's so funny about that is that the research that they've done has been nothing more than my propaganda.
Yeah.
Basically, the research you've done is me telling you that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You've not looked at any other companies. You're not paying it. It's all. And so I came up with this other crazy thing that I've done, Wyatt, with a bunch of people, and it works. And this is also YouTube. Once again, same thing. If you understand these platforms, I'm gonna tell you a secret that I did that I discovered years ago, and it just totally rocked.
Give them all away, all the secrets.
Yeah, seriously. I do this with all my clients.
He's doing it right now.
I am. He's
giving away the secrets.
I do this with my clients. I've done this, and it works. It works, and it's one of the ways to use the platform. Okay, check this out. And this is the part that makes the research thing funny. Okay, when you hear what I did. People want to see positive 5-star reviews on your company, right? Of course they do.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I can put text reviews, and I asked for all my customers to make reviews, and I'd take the text and I'd put them on the website, and I thought, but what I would really be good is if I had a video review from these clients. But it's hard to get a client to make a video review to begin with, or one that's any good, that's useful. Okay. So did I know? You know what I did? Mm. So I came up with this crazy idea. Dude, this works. This works. So what I did is I sat right here, and you can watch these videos on our YouTube channel. I printed out customer reviews. Legit, they were real reviews. I didn't make them up.
Yeah.
I printed them out. I sat right here and I read them. And I said, okay, this is from Nicole in Santa Fe. I'm so grateful that, and I just read the review. And then I looked in the camera and I said, Nicole, or whatever. What did I just say? I forgot the name I just said. Anyway, I said, thank you so much for writing that review. We really take pride in this. That's so important to us that you'd be willing to make that comment. And thank you so much. And we're glad that it all worked out. And we hope you have a great day. Nice music in the background, filmed really well. Now, when people search on my company, which is Audio Mover, if they're thinking about doing business with us, what do people do? They get on Google and they type in reviews. Yeah. Whatever the company is that they're interested in working with, they'll do that. Audio Mover reviews. Guess what they find if they search on Audio Mover reviews on Google? They find videos of me reading reviews from customers, and they're doing research on how good my company is, and all they're really doing is watching me read customer testimonials to them. Yeah. But the amazing thing about it is I'm utilizing this video platform because Google wants to put videos as part of search results. Yeah. So when somebody types in whatever my company name is, review, what are they going to find? They're going to find me reading reviews from my customers. And those things, I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls from those. And it's not like they're getting tens of thousands of videos, and that's not their purpose. They have a very specific audience and very specific purpose. It's for this very small group of people that have found my website through other means or have heard about it and they want to type in, Audio Mover reviews. Yeah. That's my audience. It doesn't matter if they get 100,000 views. There's no point in that. They're not for that. I made them to get the hundreds of searches on those terms.
And that's really important to understand, like where at in your customer journey are you using these videos? Like, because if you were using the KPI of engagement or views, you would say that video was a complete fail. But that video probably has the highest ROI of any other video that you've made with the least amount of views, because you're not tracking views, because that's middle bottle of funnel people that you're talking to. Right. Yeah, so it is really important. And you covered so much. There's so many good things that you just said. So many hot topics. First of all, Google owns YouTube, and they want to give you videos because they understand that people love watching videos over reading blog posts, right? So if you make videos locally, it's a local search engine optimization tactic. And just like you said, you're not making videos to say, hey, use me, I'm your company. You should feel like you are giving away all of your trade secrets by making these videos. Because people go to search, how do I fix a cassette tape? And they have their cassette tape in front of them, and they're watching your video, and they're like, okay, I can't do this. This is way too complicated. Yeah. But he can. And that link in the description that shows where I can. They're like, you mean I have to do that for 65 cassette tapes? I'm going to send it to this guy. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, any industry that you're in, like plumbing, HVAC, like fixing air conditioners, flooring, like make videos. And people are really starting to understand this. But if you don't understand this yet, and you're letting your ego, don't make assumptions. Do what other people are doing. Make the videos giving away your trade secrets. This is how you fix a toilet. You're like, oh no, they're going to fix their own toilet. Maybe some of them. A couple. But, the 65-year-old lady down the street thinking that she might be able to fix her toilet in the next 30 minutes watches your video and says, no, but XYZ Plumbing will.
He knows how to do it.
I actually recognize this brand from in town.
Yeah, because I've seen the truck. It's local.
Yeah, so you make those videos, and that's the new blogs. People used to, and blogs are still very relevant, but it's the new blogs, and it's very
supplements
local. It supplements it, yeah.
Because Google's going to show you Google on the left-hand side, or I guess it all gets mixed together now, but they're going to show you the blog posts, and they want to show you videos too. So you better have both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me, and this is really quick. Whenever I first started getting interested in marketing and I was working with a company, they had like a lubricant that you could use on guns and door hinges and like everything that you can possibly think of as a really awesome like new compound that was like super penetrating oil and it didn't like collect dust like WD-40 did. So it was like this super specific thing. The most sales that they ever got from that lubricant was a video on how to fix a squeaky fan. And it was
Wow.
not the point of the video at all. They just used that lubricant and there was a link in the description for it. And they got like $250,000 in sales from that video over the course of, 6 or 7 years. Because they just trust, they see it. And they're like, it fixed that squeaky fan. So, there's probably a billion examples like that. But if you have a product or a service, and there's a place for it, but the organic content that you create on YouTube and social media should be like you doing the work, you using the tools, you doing the work that your service provides. Like power washing is a huge one. Like people will sit there and binge power washing videos for so long, and before you know it, I love this guy that does pressure washing. If I lived near him, I would have him pressure wash my sidewalk if I had a dirty sidewalk. So content is like we've been saying, it's multifaceted. It's for a ton of different reasons. If you're not creating content in some way, you should be. You should be. And there's 100,000 different ways to do it. And if you're somebody that just says, "Oh, X platform's not my platform. Like my people aren't there."
Mm-hmm.
That's a limiting belief that you need to break past very quickly, because the guy next to you doing the same business that doesn't have that limiting belief is taking your customers right now.
Bingo.
Bingo.
That's awesome.
Yes.
We got to wrap it up here because I'm taking off here. Was it who at the door I thought it was? Okay. Yeah. So we got to get rolling.
Yeah.
This is a blast, man.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love it. I would do it 1,000 more times.
Okay, we'll have to let's do it again sometime in the near future. Because now my wheels are really turning on a bunch of different things, and there's a
Yes.
lot to talk about.
Now we got to pump the brakes for a little bit.
Yeah. So, hey man, thanks for
Cool.
taking the time to
Yeah,
do this. This
no,
is a
thank you.
blast.
Thank you so
Like I
much.
said, we've known each other for quite a while, and I learned a lot from you guys when you would come in here. Matter of fact, the first time I ever heard the idea of give away all your best stuff was in this room. You guys were talking about that whole concept of just tell people, give it.
Yeah.
And interestingly, although there's a few people that will do these things on their own, for the most part, most people go, hey, they know how to do this, and
Right.
and I've got other things to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that have that mentality of the one that I finally came to about 10 years ago, where I thought, why am I changing my own oil when there's a people down the street
Yeah.
that can do it for me, and I can be doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
So there's real value in that whole concept of giving that stuff away. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And Nicole, thank you for being here and taking the time to run all the live equipment and keep things rocking. And we will do this again sometime soon. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, sir.